What's next on the agenda after Palaces of Evora and Sintra? The king now wants to build a summer pavilion for the royal family. Do you want to learn how to play Azul Summer Pavilion?
In this video, we're going to take you through the full rules for this game, and if you stay tuned till the end, you can pick up some tips along the way. Coming up. Hi, it's Tarrant.
And Stella from Meeple University.
Now, let's get to the rules for Azul Summer Pavilion, game by Michael Kiesling and published by Next Move Games. Summer Pavilion is the third game in the Azul series of games. As in its predecessors, players will be competing against each other to draft sets of coloured tiles from a common display and build them onto a personal wall of tiles to create patterns, in this case stars, in order to earn points. The game plays over 6 rounds, and the player who scores the most points from their patterns wins the game. To set up, place the 132 coloured tiles, 22 in each of 6 colours, into the bag. The only tile left out should be the first player tile. Each player takes a player board and a scoring token, which is then placed on the 5 space of the main scoring track. Place the round marker on round 1, and randomly draw 10 tiles from the bag to place onto these supply spaces in the centre of the board. Next, place the circular factory tiles in the centre of the table, 5 in a 2-player game, 7 in a 3-player game, or 9 in a 4-player game. Then place the first player tile in the centre of the circle, and place 4 tiles at random from the bag onto each factory tile. You're now ready to play. The game is played in 6 rounds, and each round is played in 2 main phases. First, the acquire phase, in which players gain tiles from the factories. Then, the play phase, where players play tiles and score points. There are 6 colours of tiles in the game, and in each round, one of those 6 colours will be wild. This changes from round to round. For the purposes of this demonstration, we'll be in round 1, where purple is wild. So now, let's look at how each of these 2 main phases works. The acquire phase begins with the player who took the first player token in the previous round, or with the youngest player in round 1. Players then take turns clockwise. On a player's turn, the player has 2 options. The first is to choose a factory tile, choose a colour of tile, and then take all tiles of the chosen colour, plus exactly 1 wild tile if there's at least 1 wild tile on that factory. The player places these next to the player board, and any leftover tiles are pushed into the middle of the circle. If there are no wilds on the factory, the player simply takes the chosen coloured tiles, and if there is more than 1 wild, the player takes only 1, before pushing the rest. Players are not allowed to choose the wild colour as the main one they take, and so the only legal action with this particular factory tile is to take a yellow and 1 purple, before pushing the purple wilds to the middle. The exception to this is for a factory tile which contains only the wild colour, in which case a player may choose exactly 1 of those tiles, again pushing the rest to the middle. The player's other option on their turn is to take tiles from the centre of the table. This follows the same rules as the factory tiles, so the player chooses 1 colour, which is not the wild, takes all tiles of that colour, and then must also take exactly 1 wild if there is at least 1 there. Additionally, the first player to take this action on each round must take the first player token. The player who does this becomes first player for the next phase and the next round, but must immediately lose 1 point for each tile taken, excluding the first player tile itself, down to a minimum of 1. Play continues in this manner until all of the tiles on the factories and in the centre of the table are gone. A player is not allowed to pass if there is a legal action available on the board, even if that action is detrimental. Once all tiles are gone, proceed to the playing tiles phase. The playing tiles phase once again takes place clockwise, starting from the player who just acquired the first player token. On a player's turn, the player has 2 options, either to play a tile onto their pattern or to pass. Pattern tiles are placed by discarding a number of matching coloured tiles equal to the number in that wedge of the star. So let's say, for example, the player wants to place in this yellow 3 wedge. The player must gather 3 tiles which are either yellow or this round's wild colour. The player then places one of those tiles, which must be the matching colour, not a wild, onto the space, and discards the rest, dropping them into the tower. Then the player immediately scores 1 point for the tile that was placed, and 1 point for any tiles that are in an adjacent cluster within the same star. So, placing this one would score 1 point, placing this one would score 2 points, this one would score 3 points, and this one would score 4. Move your score marker to count the points. You are not allowed to make a placement using only the wild colour unless you are foregoing its wild abilities and placing it on its own coloured star. When placing in the central star, you may place any colour of tile, however each colour may be present only once. So this player would not be able to place another yellow tile in there, but could place a red one. The first player tile is never placed during this phase. After making a tile placement, if you have completely surrounded a pillar, a statue, or a window, then you gain an immediate bonus. This comes in the form of tiles which you may freely take from the supply spaces on the main board. Surrounding a pillar lets you take 1 tile, surrounding a statue lets you take 2, and surrounding a window lets you take 3. You may take multiple wild tiles in the same bonus if they're available. These bonus tiles are immediately available for placements on subsequent turns. After you've taken your entire bonus, refill the empty spaces from the bag. Players continue taking turns in this manner until they cannot or do not wish to place tiles. At this point, a player passes and is out of the rest of this round. The player may store up to 4 tiles, placing them on these corner spaces, available to be placed in subsequent rounds. Any remaining tiles beyond these 4 are discarded, and the player loses 1 point per tile discarded in this way. Once all players have passed, the round is over, and you will prepare for the next round. You'll note that there's a new wild colour, and any tiles that have been stored from previous round of that colour will now take on the wild property. Then return the first player tile to the centre of the board, and refill each factory with 4 new tiles from the bag. If the bag ever runs empty, then empty the discard tower back into the main bag and continue drawing from the bag. The new round then starts from the acquire phase, starting with the player who had first player in the previous round. The game ends at the end of the 6th round. There is no storage for tiles at the end of the game, so any tiles that aren't placed lose 1 point each. Then players will score end of game points for completed features of their patterns. Each fully completed star scores points based on this table. So here, there's 16 points for the yellow star and 12 for the multicoloured one. A player who has covered all 7 ones on the board scores 4 points. Covering all 7 twos is worth 8 points, all 7 threes is 12, and all 7 fours is 16. So here, all the 3s and 4s are covered for an extra 28 points. The player or players with the highest score wins. As a variant, players can also play with the blank side of the board. Here, you have the flexibility to choose whichever space you want for your different colours of stars. If you wish, you can build multiple stars of the same colour, including multiple multicoloured stars. You can even construct a multicoloured star on the outside or a monochromatic star in the middle. The arrangement of the numbers is slightly different, making this side of the board more symmetrical, but otherwise this variant plays exactly the same way as the base game. And that's how to play Azul Summer Pavilion. We hope that you enjoyed this video and we hope you enjoy playing.
If you enjoyed this video, please help us by hitting the like button, subscribe to us. You can also hit the Meeple in the corner to do so, and hit the bell icon so you'll be one of the first to know when we have new videos. You can also follow me on Instagram for my board games photos and reviews.
And finally, if you have any questions, comments or feedback, please write them in the comment section below.
Until next time!